Hi stock market investors, JJ here, welcome back. Well, right now I'm going to react to this video with Tom Lee, our favorite perma bull. He's keen on small caps. He says he's bullish on small caps for the rest of the year. He said this before. Let's see what he's got to see now after this weekend's events, the political violence as well. Let's see what he's got to say about small caps and the macro environment. He's always got a prediction for us.
Let's bring in Fundstrat head of research, Tom Lee. Tom, always good to see you. So we've got to start with the big picture, including politics. Fortunately, former President Trump was not significantly injured in this assassination attempt over the weekend. But just talking about the impact on investments as well of this overall environment. If President Trump were to win, you say it would be positive for Bitcoin and for cyclicals and commercial REITs. But I'm curious, why negative energy and healthcare?
Thank you, John. I think the reason it's negative for energy is somewhat counterintuitive, but President Trump is favorable for drilling, and he'd want to expand where we look for oil, but that would put downside pressure on oil prices. So
he is keen on fossil fuels. He was last time around, but he's also keen on partnering with Elon Musk here. He hasn't said good things about electric cars before. Elon Musk is supporting him, so maybe it'll be slightly different this time around. Might be all of the above with Trump going, supporting kind of both sectors there, both industries.
That's why we think it would actually ultimately be negative for energy stocks. And for healthcare, I think it has a lot to do with, potentially repealing Obamacare, but also just the fact that pharmaceutical companies and their pricing, I think, would come under a lot more scrutiny as well.
Okay. Now, I got to ask about your small cap call. I think you said a few months ago that small caps could rise 50%. We saw at the end of last week.
50%. See, a while ago, did say 50%. During the second half of the year. We're into that now, and small caps have indeed had a good run. Now, I've made a video on the other channel, The Art of Value. Join that if you want to. There it is. I'll put a link in the description to that if you want to join up there. I've talked about small caps. As I said, I'm heavy in small caps here, but I have also talked about the folly of prediction. People have a good run, like Tom Lee's having a good run, but it's pretty impossible to predict the stock market consistently, and a lot of people think that he can. He's had a good run, but let's just see what he has to say about small caps.
Some interesting rotation into small caps. How much further in 24 can they run?
I think the rally that started last week for small caps is going to be larger than the October to December rally of last year. That was over 8 weeks, almost a 30% gain for the Russell 2000. This time we have a larger short position by institutions. We have small caps even more oversold, and valuations, whether you look at median PE, which is now at 10 times 2025 earnings, even lower. So we think that this move could be something like 10 weeks and as much as 40%. So I think it is just starting, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that, the June CPI was so astonishingly soft. I think it's giving the green light for small caps to rally finally, because the Fed will ultimately cut, hopefully by September.
That does seem to be what happened there last week when the CPI came out, and it was, as he said, softer, and small caps index, the Russell 2000, immediately rallied. Let's take a look at that. So for the year to date, the Russell 2000 is now up 8.66%, and we can see the massive spike there just from June 9th. It's up 7.76% since then, and before that, it really wasn't doing very much. I think it was like 3.5%, if that, for the year before that happened. If we go back a year, we can see that it's only up 12%. See that? And then if we compare that to the other indices, where the S&P 500 is up 18.73%, so it's got catching up to do. Will Tom Lee be right here? He said 50% throughout the year. It wasn't for the second half of the year, although it didn't do much in the first half. So really, 50% for the whole year. It's got a lot of catching up to do to the S&P 500 for the year so far. Or will the S&P 500 go down? Those mega caps go down? It remains to be seen. We really can't predict it, although he tries to, and he has had some good runs, so they have him on these programs a lot more often. So the NASDAQ, also worth looking at that, 25% now just year to date, and over the year it's up 29%. So it's really having a good run. And so the Russell 2000 really hasn't done much. We'll have to see. As I said, it's up 8.66%, but that doesn't mean, as I keep saying, that with small caps, we look at the index like that. But if you pick individual companies, as Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger say, it's about individual stock picking, not investing on this big overall the indices, although you can do that. The Russell 2000. If you look at, this is my small cap portfolio. This is 8 small caps, small and mid caps in here actually. And for the year, so far it's up 18.75%. So it was already running up above, this is neck and neck with the S&P 500. And there you can see it got up to like 40%. It's gone down, but, turning around now just in the last week. So it'd be interesting to see, how that goes over the rest of the year, although that's such a small time frame, isn't it? So it's really about the long term, and so that's why it's kind of ridiculous to predict these short-term 6-month kind of cycles. But he does do it, and he's had a good run. But my prediction is that his run, it will kind of end. He didn't do well in 2022 when there was a bear market. He's a perma bear, doing well in bear with predictions in bull markets. Let's continue. I digress.
And how much do you expect the S&P to potentially rise over that same 10 weeks?
10 weeks.
A good question. I think July, our base case remains that July should be good for the S&P 500. So, something like 57, maybe even close to 5,800 in July. But I think that August is really going to be one where the rotation becomes more evident, and I think it's going to be a stronger small cap and maybe flat to slightly down for the S&P.
Okay, and so that's what I was getting at is how strong can the small cap, say the Russell 2000 as a proxy, be versus the S&P 500? And you're saying after July, you actually think that there's going to be a significant outperformance of small caps versus that index?
Yes, and that's kind of what happened in that October to December rally. That, as you know, the large caps actually really sputtered in late December and early January because of that rotation into small caps. And I think, again, because the positioning is even more short relative to large caps, that it could be an even more sizable move.
Meantime,
so there we go. You see, they had on the screen there a comparison there, but like I said, between the Russell 2000 and the S&P 500, quite a lot of catching up to do, but it is going straight up there. So it's going to be fascinating to see if Tom Lee's right here. It's really entertainment here. This is for entertainment and general education purposes, not any kind of prediction, not any recommendation on what to do here. So you need to seek your own financial advice and do your own work. Now, on the screen, I'm going to put a link to subscribe to this channel if you're not just subscribed here and it's new, so do follow along there, and to the other channel, the main channel, The Art of Value. I'll put a link in the description to that as well, so do follow along, and I'll put a link to a video that YouTube thinks that you should watch next based on the algorithm, what it thinks, and it's usually pretty good. So go and see that now. It might be one of mine, it might not, and thanks to everybody for watching or listening, and I'll see you in the next one.